So I'm trying to get to the news behind the news in this Unplugged show. Just short snippets of what's going on and what you really need to know. There was an article in the Times at the weekend talking about the new MI6 chief, Blaise Metreweli, who's 48 years old. She went to Cheltenham Ladies College in Westminster, my old school, my God. They say that when the cops getting younger, you get older. In my case, it's when the MI6 chiefs get, No, she was from Westminster, and I was at Westminster. She's a bit younger than me, actually. Several of the most Russophobic journalists in Britain went to Westminster. I'm thinking of Adam Bolton and Patrick Wintour, and she seems quite Russophobic. What is about the place? Funnily enough, Westminster is a place that took in a lot of Russian exiles, emigre millionaires, oligarchs, if you like, in the 1990s, people with a lot of money and who wanted to launder their reputations vicariously through their children who got a very good English education. I'm not saying that's what happened to her, because she was actually the daughter of a man who settled in Britain in 1945 with her mother, who then remarried. But the interesting thing is, and I'll get to the point of this later, is that her father's father, her grandfather, was a notorious Nazi in Ukraine in the war, and he died in 1944. And he was known as the Butcher and killed numerous Jews and peasants. And he has actually got his own Dobrovolsky, I think his name is, and the Daily Mail revealed this, and it's actually on her Wikipedia page. So they're out there early with that news. And that begs the question of why there are so many people with families who have Nazi roots at the top of European political elites. Could be a complete coincidence. But Merz's grandfather was a Nazi official. And the Baerbock, the former German foreign minister, her grandfather was also a Nazi official and a Nazi soldier. I think he was in the SS or something. And so was the Georgian president, outgoing president, who is now fighting on the barricades in Georgia for NATO. I think her father or uncle was part of the Georgian exile movement that joined Gestapo or something like that. Anyway, the point is not to be so detailed. These details can be found out through a quick Googling. But her grandfather had Ukrainian Nazi roots, and of course Britain is heavily involved in Ukraine and has supported the far right in Ukraine for a long time. That full story hasn't come out yet, I don't think, but it will. But what I wanted to raise about this article was that it says that the headline is, and the intro in the first few paragraphs talks about a greater focus on the Middle East of the new MI6. But it's unclear. It actually raises the nature of what journalism is about, because I asked people to analyse this article and say, what do you think it's saying? Because it cites an anonymous source. Now, is this an anonymous source? Someone in the British government? Someone in the intelligence community? Is it someone who's sending a shot across the bows to Metreweli? Or is it someone who is actually speaking with her approval? This is the whole thing about anonymous sourcing, is you never know who it's aimed at, and it's all very unaccountable. So it could be Metreweli herself saying, we're going to focus more on the Middle East, where she spent her early career and where Britain has lost power, lost influence because of the decline of the so-called moderate Arab regimes and the Gulf regimes, where Britain used to have influence in favour of this greater Israel push, and where America is predominant. So that was what the article explained. Britain's got to do this. Britain's going to do this. Now, if it was someone Metreweli's giving a steer to, it could be that she's laying out her programme in a deniable way. Or it could be someone inside the intelligence community, a retired MI6 official. It could be someone inside the Ministry of Defence. Could be someone connected to the Labour government saying, this is what you will be focusing on, And she will have got that message loud and clear in that case. So the Middle East will be the focus. And the second question that raises itself is, will that focus on the Middle East be at the expense of the focus on Ukraine? I pray it does mean that, because it means that the British are finally giving up on Project Ukraine, which has made this war last much longer than it did and has led to incredible disaster for the Ukrainian state. Or does it mean that the MI6 are supposed to focus on both the Middle East and Ukraine at the same time? That's how journalism works, you have to analyze it in several different ways. But we'll see.